Start in a tabletop position. The hand placement is up to you. I prefer to have my fingers kind of pointing forward or 30 to 45 degrees out from forward. Some will prefer to have the fingers pointing back, especially those with tight wrists. So experiment and see what's appropriate for you. The hips stay up, the hips stay off the floor throughout this movement. We're going to start by sending the hips as far back as possible. Yeah, ideally you send them far enough back. You straighten the legs. Yeah, go as far back as you can. And then send the hips up and forward and squeeze the glutes at the top here. So I'm not just sending my belly up, I'm sending the hips up. Yeah, and then we send the hips back as far as possible, ideally straightening the legs, up and forward, squeeze the glutes, extend the hips at the top. Now if this is too challenging, just don't send the hips as far back. If this is easy, you can really send them back and drive the shoulders forward. Yeah, and then hips come up, squeeze the glutes here. Throughout the movement, you're pushing down into the floor to avoid letting the shoulders shrug up. So you're very active here, yeah? And the arms stay straight. There's 0 elbow bend during this movement. 1 repetition is defined as the movement from here to here, that's 1 rep. Back as far as possible, shoulders forward, hips up, squeeze the butt, that's 2 reps. Set up with the feet around 1.5 times hip width apart, and your hand will be centered between the feet. This is going to be a single arm drill. So it's not offset to the side, it's centered directly between the feet. That arm will remain locked straight as we take the other arm off the floor. This hand, I'm reaching across to the other side of the body. My goal here is to keep the shoulders square, so I'm not rotating away. I keep the chest square with the floor, such that the shoulders remain level with each other. This arm is straight and I'm turning the inside of that elbow forward, pushing down hard into the floor while keeping the shoulders level. So I push into the floor, keep my tail tucked, I'm not here. I'm cueing that posterior pelvic tilt, glutes and abs are on. Don't let the shoulder creep up, don't let your shoulder shrug. You're pulling it down into depression while you cue protraction. Push away from the floor and hold this shape. If this is too challenging, you can do it on the knees, perform a movement on the knees. Again, the hand's centered between the knees, not offset to the side. It's locked straight. Reach across to the other side of the body with the other arm. Cue that tail tuck. We're not here. We're here. Push away from the floor. We're cueing scapular protraction to spread the shoulder blade apart. Yeah, and avoiding elevation. Maintain distance between the shoulder and the same side ear. And we hold here. Keep your weight on top of the hand. Don't let yourself shift back. And keep the shoulders level with each other. And this is an isometric hold, so we hold for the prescribed amount of time. Always start on your weaker side and do your stronger side second. Begin by stepping one leg behind the other leg with control. That foot will be quite close to pointing forward, if not pointing forward. Now sink down as far as you can into the squat, moving toward that heel. And then come back up. Return to the starting position. Place this foot with control behind the other leg. Again, sink down only as far as you can with control and without pain. Notice here the knee is past the calf. So my knee is not on the inside of the calf, it's on the outside of this calf. And then you come back up to standing. The full variation would be to step behind, sink all the way down to where you're sitting on that heel. So your butt makes contact with your heel. And come back up. And if I show you maybe from the side, you would step behind for the full version. Again, that foot's close to pointing forward. If not pointing forward, make contact between the butt and the heel and come back up. And you will alternate sides like so. Set up with the hands just slightly wider than shoulder width apart. We're going to do a good old-fashioned push-up, but we're going to do it well. So pay attention to the cues. We start in a support position. You'll tuck the tail, cue a posterior pelvic tilt, and you're going to maintain this position throughout. We want to avoid letting the lower back collapse or the ribs flare out. So we're here. As you lower down and push up, you should feel your upper arm brushing along your side. We're keeping the elbows tight to the body. If you don't feel that, probably two things are happening. Your hands are too far apart and you're letting the elbows go out rather than having them come directly backward. As you lower down, you'll keep that shape, keep the body line tight. Don't let the ribs flare out, the lower back collapse, or the elbows flare out. And you're going to touch both the head and the hips to the floor at the same time, and then push back up, maintaining that shape. So we're here, we lower down, elbows stay tight. Touch the floor with the hips and the face, and push back up. What we want to avoid is perhaps you lower down nicely, but then lose the position on the way up. This is very common, where the chest comes up without the rest of the body. Yeah, that's why we're cueing the tail tuck to try to maintain that connection, and also cueing keeping the ribs drawn in. The other thing to avoid here is letting your shoulders shrug up. So this is also quite common. Often they go together, where someone gets into this sort of a position. Keep the shoulders set down. Definitely avoid elevation. So once more, we're here. And push up. If this is too challenging, you can do it on your knees. The knees will be back behind the line of the hips. We're cueing all the same cues. Everything still applies here. Touch the hips and the head to the floor at the same time and push back up.